A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome once again to HJN Season 5. So with all that I've talked about so far, we're almost a month worth of HJN topics. One episode a day would equate to around 30 on an average month, although with most months they're set at 31 days. But either way you look at it, that's still some good progress that I've made so far. But keep in mind, I plan on doing at least 15 times the current amount. So if you do yourself the math, that's a lot of episodes for HJN that I have put together. For the next subject I have in mind, however, we're going to be going a bit away from stowaways and focusing a bit on negotiation for number 2683. Negotiation is a verbal process in which that multiple parties, often in correlation to a certain business, they try to come up with a good alternative to a certain plan that is already made. For instance, there's always a time in which that some crime might take place. And even though one conspirator is almost always responsible for it, there's always the chance that there's more than one person involved. In the negotiation, or in this case, interrogation, which is an entirely different process, sometimes they might also include for the fact that whether a co-conspirator or even a co-witness of the conspiracies put in place has something to do with the crime whatsoever, often there actually could be a time in which that negotiations show up. As long as they are willing to comply with the officers and cooperate with their decisions on the arrest and processing of said conspirators, any of the other people involved, depending on what the severity of the crimes they might have gotten alongside the main conspirators are like, sometimes they can be let off the hook, or at the very least receive a lesser sentence than the one involved. And while it's still a common practice carried out today, not every co-conspirator is going to be held less accountable than the likes of the main conspirator. There's always a good chance that they will be held almost as responsible, if not less than that. But the bottom line, though, is that it's not just what happens with criminal-related stuff, but it can also be business-related. Negotiations on the fronts of, let's say, a corporate decision made at an executive level, whether it be from a merging with another larger company, like when Burlington Northern and Santa Fe came together in 1995, they would merge together after some negotiations came around, with Santa Fe kind of fading off after being in the Southwest for a while Burlington Northern and their handling of a lot of trackage over the years eventually led to them needing some partnership, leading to the birth of Burlington Northern Santa Fe, that unique three-toned paint scheme, which does pay a little homage to the Great Northern Railway, which utilized the pumpkin color scheme of orange, green, and yellow. As we know by now, they are considered one of the largest Class 1 railroads in the States to this very day. And while it is true that they somehow still do hold some business practices that are more or less questionable, if not straight up outrageous, we know that railroading is not the only thing that has to do with negotiation, and more so, corporate decisions of that level. It doesn't have to do anything with merging and whatnot. I could even talk about how FedEx in July of 2023, which was 2 years ago by the way, they made the executive decision to merge the likes of Ground, Freight, and Express together into one single unified subsidiary. And Ground, as you probably know, is one of the biggest major components to leading to home delivery. And while there is a separate venue for home delivery FedEx-wise, it's a bit of a different story than what most would expect. It would be as simple as home delivery. Well, home delivery in FedEx is a bit different than what most would expect. You'd think that it was basically like Ground, in which that they would deliver to the home, ergo the name home delivery. However, they work not at all the same. But I feel like that would be going a bit off topic here. So the bottom line is that negotiation is typically a series of verbal communication made between multiple parties, whether opposing or allying, in order to come to a final decision that hopefully benefits the likes of both parties and their opinions on the matter. it typically has something to do with something negative that's going on. And sometimes the practice of negotiation can allow for a smoother, calmer transition into hopefully a more peaceful state between the likes of both parties. And sometimes more than two parties will get involved, regardless of what goes on. But it all depends on a number of factors regarding the ethics, regarding the behavior of some people, regarding the value of someone's decision in life, or it could have anything to do with whatever else they might be thinking of. There's always a good chance that a peaceful decision can be made. But if it cannot be done, then the negotiation part is most certainly terminated. And it's just back to square one. Whatever they were doing prior to coming up to the idea of negotiation. But we don't really need to get into that sort of subject, at least for a while. So I'll see you guys tomorrow with more HJN, and make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.